My name is Eleanor Mitchell, and at 32 years old, I never expected to be standing in my car in the parking lot of a Denny's on Christmas Day, laughing through tears as I scrolled through frantic text messages from my family. The latest one from my mother simply read, "The chicken is still raw and your father is having a meltdown. Please come home." 23 missed calls. 46 texts. And for the first time in 25 years, not my problem. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button and stay with me because this story might feel familiar. It all started on Thanksgiving, exactly 1 month earlier. I'd spent 3 days preparing the meal, as I had since I was 7 years old. That's not an exaggeration. I've been the family cook since my mother decided I had a natural talent and she was just not good at it. By age 10, I was handling holiday meals entirely on my own. By 14, I was cooking Sunday dinners too. By 18, I was responsible for all family gatherings, while juggling college classes. I'd perfected my turkey recipe over the years. Brine for 24 hours in a mixture of salt, brown sugar, and herbs. Rubbed with butter and garlic under the skin. Basted every 30 minutes until the skin turned that perfect golden brown. My homemade cranberry sauce had just the right balance of tart and sweet. My stuffing was made from scratch, with bread I'd cubed and dried myself. My pumpkin pie, well, let's just say I'd won the county fair 3 years running. That Thanksgiving morning, I'd woken at 5 a.m. to start cooking. By the time my family arrived at 2 p.m., I'd been on my feet for 9 hours straight. My back ached. My feet throbbed. But everything was perfect, the table set with my grandmother's china, candles lit, food staying warm in the oven and on the stove. "Oh, Eleanor, it smells wonderful," my mother, Patricia, exclaimed as she breezed in, not offering to help but instead immediately pouring herself a glass of wine. My father, Richard, grunted a hello before settling into his recliner to watch football. My younger sister Olivia arrived with her husband Greg and their 2 children, immediately handing me their coats without so much as a hello or thank you. "Kids, go play with your toys in the living room," Olivia instructed, before turning to me. "Al, do you mind warming up a bottle for the baby? And Jacob needs his snack cut into small pieces, you know how he is." I nodded, added these tasks to my mental list, and continued mashing potatoes. My brother Michael arrived last, with his new girlfriend Amber, the 3rd one this year, who at least had the decency to ask if I needed help. Before I could answer, my mother interjected. "Oh, Eleanor's got it all under control. She's our little chef." She laughed, patting my shoulder. "Besides, we don't want to mess up her system." Dinner was served at 4 p.m. sharp. Everyone oohed and awed over the food as they always did, complimenting each dish between bites. "This turkey is so moist. The gravy has no lumps at all. These mashed potatoes are to die for." But something felt different this year. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the realization that I'd spent another holiday serving everyone else while barely having time to eat myself. Maybe it was the fact that no one had asked a single question about my life, my job, or my recent breakup with Tyler after 3 years together. As I cleared the plates between dinner and dessert, I overheard my mother in the living room. "Everyone, let's take a family photo before dessert." She herded everyone toward the fireplace. "Richard, stand behind me. Olivia and Greg on the left with the kids. Michael and Amber on the right." I walked in from the kitchen, wiping my hands on a dish towel, expecting to be called over. Instead, my mother said, "Eleanor, would you mind taking the picture? You know how to use my phone, right? Just swipe for portrait mode." I stood there, dish towel in hand, as everyone arranged themselves. 25 years of cooking holiday meals. 25 years of cleaning up afterward. And not a single family photo with me in it. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "I'd like to be in the photo too." My mother looked confused. "But then who will take it?" "We could use the timer," I suggested. "Or ask one of the kids to do it." She waved her hand dismissively. "Jacob's too little, and Emma's dress might get wrinkled if she has to stand up again. Just take the picture, Eleanor. We'll make sure you're in the next one." But I knew there wouldn't be a next one. There never was. I looked at the assembled group, my father checking his watch impatiently, my sister adjusting her daughter's bow, my brother with his arm around his girlfriend who he'd probably break up with before New Year's. And my mother, smiling expectantly, holding out her phone to me. In that moment, something inside me snapped. "No," I said. The room fell silent. My mother's smile faltered. "What did you say?" I said no. "I won't take the picture." My father looked up from his watch. "Eleanor, don't be difficult. Just take the damn picture so we can have dessert." I placed the dish towel carefully on the coffee table. I've cooked every holiday meal for this family since I was 7 years old. I've never complained. I've never asked for help. And I've never been in a single family photo. Not one. "That's not true," my mother protested. "You're in plenty of photos." "Show me one," I challenged. She scrolled through her phone, frowning. "Well, I'm sure there are some. I just can't find them right now." "There aren't any," I said quietly. "And I'm done." "Done with what?" my sister asked, her voice sharp. "Done cooking. Done cleaning. Done being the invisible person who makes everything happen but isn't important enough to be included." "You're being dramatic," my brother said, rolling his eyes. "Am I?" I walked to the dining room and picked up my phone. I opened my gallery and turned the screen toward them. This is Thanksgiving last year. And the year before. And the year before that. I swiped through photos of beautifully plated food, decorated tables, and family groups, all missing one person. Me. "These are from my birthday dinner last month," I continued, showing them more photos. "Notice anything?" "I'm not in these either, because I was too busy cooking and serving to sit down with everyone else." My mother's face had turned pale. My father looked uncomfortable. My sister was shooting daggers at me with her eyes. "So, no," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I won't take your picture. And I won't be serving dessert. In fact, I think I'm going to go home now." "But the pies," my mother started, "are in the oven. Timer's set for 10 more minutes. You can take them out yourselves." I walked to the coat closet, pulled out my jacket, and headed for the door. The silence behind me was deafening. "You can't just leave," my father finally said. "It's Thanksgiving." I turned back one last time. "Actually, I can. And for Christmas, you might want to learn how to cook a turkey." Because I won't be doing it. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. In my car, I sat for a moment, hands trembling on the steering wheel. 25 years of pent-up frustration released in one defiant moment. I should have felt guilty, but instead, I felt light. Free. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with incoming messages. I ignored them all. What I didn't know then was that my small act of rebellion would trigger a family earthquake. That walking away from Thanksgiving dinner would be just the beginning. That my decision to skip Christmas entirely would lead to discoveries about my family, and myself, that would change everything. And I had no idea that leaving them with nothing but a raw chicken in silence on Christmas Day would be the kindest thing I'd ever done for them, and for myself. But first, I had to survive the month between Thanksgiving and Christmas. A month during which I would discover just how far my family would go to maintain the status quo, and just how strong I would need to be to break free from patterns established since childhood. What I didn't expect was who would betray me, who would stand by me, and how the holidays would never be the same again, in ways I could never have imagined. The week after Thanksgiving passed in a blur of notifications. My phone vibrated so frequently that I eventually silenced it, watching the missed calls and messages pile up like snowdrifts. Mom called 17 times the first day alone. Dad texted once, "Your mother is upset. Fix this." My sister Olivia sent a paragraph about how I'd ruined the holiday and traumatized the children. My brother Michael, surprisingly, sent just one message, "You okay?" I replied only to him, "Getting there." I spent that week in a strange emotional limbo, alternating between guilt and liberation. Years of conditioning had taught me that family harmony was my responsibility. Yet for the first time in my adult life, I was putting myself first, and the sensation was as disorienting as it was exhilarating. On the 7th day after my walkout, I was curled up on my couch with tea and a novel, a simple pleasure I rarely allowed myself during holiday seasons, when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother, clutching her designer purse like a shield. For a moment, I considered not answering, but 25 years of obedience doesn't disappear overnight. I opened the door. "Eleanor," she said, her voice strained into the pleasant tone she used with difficult clients at her real estate office. "May I come in?" My apartment was small but neat, a one-bedroom I'd decorated with care on my librarian's salary. Mom's eyes swept the space, looking for evidence of a breakdown or crisis that would explain my behavior. Finding none, she perched uncomfortably on the edge of my armchair. "We need to discuss Christmas," she announced without preamble. "There's nothing to discuss," I replied, settling back on the couch. "I won't be cooking. This little protest of yours has made your point. Everyone feels terrible that you weren't in the photos." Her smile was tight. "Your father even suggested we hire a photographer this year to make sure everyone's included." "That's not the point, Mom." "Then what is the point, Eleanor? To punish us? To ruin Christmas for everyone because you're feeling unappreciated?" The old Eleanor would have backpedaled, apologized, promised to make everything right. But something had shifted inside me on Thanksgiving, like tectonic plates realigning. The point is that I'm not doing it anymore. Any of it. I've spent my entire life in the kitchen while everyone else enjoyed the holidays. That's ridiculous. You've always loved cooking. Did I? Or was I just told that so often that I believed it? Her face flushed. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but..." Let me show you something, I interrupted, going to my bookshelf. I pulled down a worn photo album and opened it to a specific page. Do you remember this? It was a photo of 7-year-old me, standing on a step stool at our kitchen counter, flour dusting my cheeks and a too large apron wrapped twice around my tiny waist. I was focused intently on rolling out pie dough. You were so cute, my mother said, her expression softening. You wanted to help so badly. I was 7, Mom. 7. This was Thanksgiving 2000. I flipped to the next page, showing a slightly older me at the stove, stirring something in a pot nearly as big as I was. Christmas 2001. I was 8. Page after page documented my childhood, not playing with toys or opening presents, but cooking in the kitchen. Alone. You had such a natural talent, my mother insisted. And you were so proud of your cooking. I was proud because it was the only time anyone paid attention to me. The words tumbled out before I could stop them, carrying decades of buried truth. My mother's face went pale. That's not fair. Isn't it? I closed the album. Do you know what I remember about my childhood Christmases, Mom? Not opening presents. Not singing carols. I remember checking the turkey every 30 minutes. I remember worrying that the gravy would have lumps. I remember being afraid that if the meal wasn't perfect, everyone would be disappointed in me. We were never disappointed in you. No, because I never failed. I never allowed myself to fail. I became exactly what you needed me to be, the perfect little chef, the perfect hostess, the perfect invisible support system. My mother stood up, clutching her purse tighter. I don't recognize you like this, Eleanor. You've always been such a sweet, thoughtful girl. That's the problem. I've always been whatever everyone needed me to be. But I don't even know who I am anymore. Her eyes narrowed. Is this about Tyler? Is he putting these ideas in your head? The mention of my ex-boyfriend caught me off guard. Tyler and I broke up 3 months ago. What? Why didn't you tell us? I laughed, a short, bitter sound. I did. At least 3 times. No one listened. The memory of those awkward conversations resurfaced. At Sunday dinner, Tyler and I decided to part ways. My father continuing to read his newspaper. My mother responding with, "That's nice, dear. Could you pass the salt?" At my birthday, it's strange celebrating without Tyler this year. My sister cutting in with, "Speaking of strange men, you won't believe who Amber's dating now." No one had noticed. No one had cared. My mother was frowning. Well, you should have made sure we heard you. Like you all make sure I hear you? I countered. When was the last time any of you asked about my life? My job? My feelings? You didn't even notice when I cut 8 inches off my hair last month. She waved her hand dismissively. Families get busy. We can't keep track of every little thing. A haircut is a little thing. A 3-year relationship ending is not. We stared at each other across the coffee table, the distance between us far greater than the physical space. For the first time, I was seeing my mother clearly, not as the intimidating matriarch I'd spent my life trying to please, but as a woman who had built her identity around being served rather than serving. This is about Christmas, she said finally, returning to safer ground. We have traditions, Eleanor. Yes, we do. And this year, the tradition is changing. She stood up, straightening her jacket. Your father will be very disappointed. The old guilt tactic. I recognized it immediately because it had always worked before. I'm sure he'll survive. And what about Olivia's children? You're going to disappoint your own niece and nephew? They're 5 and 3, Mom. They care about presents, not who cooks the turkey. Her face hardened. I see. Well, when you're ready to stop this childish behavior and rejoin the family, let us know. Until then. She left the thread hanging as she moved toward the door. I followed, feeling strangely calm. Mom, I'll always be part of this family. I'm just not going to be its servant anymore. She turned in the doorway, her expression a mixture of confusion and anger. No one ever asked you to be a servant. No one had to ask, I said quietly. It was just expected. After she left, I sank back onto my couch, trembling slightly. Standing up to my mother had never been part of my life plan. Neither had skipping Christmas. For as long as I could remember, my identity had been wrapped up in being the family caretaker, the peacekeeper, the one who made everything nice. Without that role, who was I? I picked up the photo album again, turning to a picture I'd almost forgotten, Christmas morning when I was 10 years old. In the background, my siblings were opening presents, my parents watching with coffee cups in hand. But there I was in the kitchen doorway, wearing an apron, anxiously checking the time. Everyone else was living in the moment. I was already thinking about dinner. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I had never really experienced Christmas. Not as a child should. Not even as an adult. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Your father suggests a compromise. We'll order the main dishes from that gourmet shop on Maple Street. You just need to make your special pies and cranberry sauce. Everyone loves those. I stared at the message, recognizing it for what it was, not a compromise but a continuation of the same pattern. They didn't want me, they wanted what I could provide. My cooking was welcome. My presence was optional. Instead of replying, I opened my laptop and made a reservation at a small resort in the mountains, 3 hours away. 2 nights over Christmas, including a holiday dinner in the resort restaurant. The cost was steep for my budget, but I clicked confirm without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I was giving myself a Christmas present that mattered, the gift of experience, of freedom, of being a participant rather than a servant. As December progressed, the pressure intensified. My mother's compromise evolved into daily texts with escalating demands. My father called, his gruff voice betraying rare emotion when he said, "Your mother's very upset, Eleanor. Christmas won't be the same without your cooking." My sister Olivia stopped by the library where I worked, her children in tow, staging what felt like an emotional ambush. "Auntie Ellie, Mommy says you're not coming for Christmas," little Emma said, her lower lip trembling on cue. Olivia stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes challenging. I knelt down to Emma's level. "I'm taking a special trip this year, but I'll have presents for you before I go," I promised, ignoring my sister's pointed glare. Later, as I walked them to the door, Olivia hissed, "Mom's a wreck. Dad's stress eating. Is that what you wanted?" "What I want is for everyone to respect my decision." She shook her head. This isn't like you, Elle. You've always been the reliable one. Maybe that's the problem. What does that even mean? She demanded. It means I'm tired of being taken for granted. Her face softened slightly. No one takes you for granted. We all appreciate your cooking. My cooking. Not me. She rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. It's just Christmas dinner. But it wasn't just dinner. It was my life's pattern, established in childhood and reinforced over decades. I'd been designated the family caretaker at an age when most children were still learning to tie their shoes. While Olivia was encouraged to join the soccer team and Michael was praised for his science projects, I was directed toward the kitchen, my worth measured in perfect pie crusts and tender roasts. I remembered clearly the Christmas when I was 12. I'd asked for a microscope, inspired by a school science unit. Instead, I received an expensive stand mixer because you're so good in the kitchen. My siblings got what they asked for. I got what reinforced my assigned role. 2 weeks before Christmas, my brother Michael surprised me by showing up at my apartment with Chinese takeout and a 6-pack of craft beer. Thought you might need provisions, he said, setting the food on my counter. Mom's on the warpath. I laughed despite myself. That's an understatement. He opened 2 beers, handed me one, and we settled at my small dining table. So, he said after a few bites of Kung Pao chicken, you're really not cooking Christmas dinner. I'm really not. He nodded thoughtfully. Can't say I blame you. Of all the reactions from my family, this was the least expected. You don't think I'm being selfish? Nah. I think you're finally standing up for yourself. He took a swig of beer. I've been waiting for this for years. I nearly choked on my lo mein. What? Michael, careless, charming Michael who drifted through life on good looks and better luck, fixed me with a surprisingly perceptive gaze. Elle, do you remember when we were kids and you got in trouble for burning the dinner rolls? I winced at the memory. I was 9. Dad yelled so loud the neighbors probably heard. You cried all night. I heard you through the wall. He twirled his beer bottle. Next day, you were back in the kitchen, determined to get it right. And I remember thinking, that's messed up. No kid should be that scared of disappointing their parents. It was just dinner rolls, I said automatically, the familiar minimization reflex kicking in. It was never just dinner rolls. It was this weird dynamic where somehow a little girl became responsible for everyone's happiness. He leaned forward. When did you stop having hobbies, Elle? You used to draw all the time, remember? Those little comics about the cat detective? I blinked, surprised he remembered. Inspector Whiskers. Yeah. Those were cool. What happened to that? No time, I guess. Between school and cooking and taking care of everyone else, he finished. Meanwhile, Olivia got to be the princess, I got to be the screw-up, and you got to be, what? The kitchen elf? I laughed, but it caught in my throat. Something like that. Well, I think it's about time you pulled a Michael. A Michael? Yeah, you know, disappoint everyone spectacularly and then do whatever the hell you want anyway. He grinned, but there was something serious in his eyes. We talked late into the night, really talked, in a way we hadn't since childhood. For the first time, I saw my family dynamics through someone else's eyes. I'd always assumed everyone thought my role was natural, deserved somehow. But Michael had seen the inequity all along. He'd just been too young, too self-involved to challenge it. As he was leaving, he paused at the door. "Just so you know, I ordered a raw chicken for Christmas dinner." "You what?" His eyes gleamed with mischief. "Told Mom I'd handle the main course this year. Ordered a raw chicken from that fancy butcher shop. Figured if you're making a stand, you deserve the full effect." "Michael, that's terrible," I said, but I was laughing. "Nah, it's perfect. They want to pretend they can manage without you? Let's see how that goes." He winked. "Merry Christmas, I'll enjoy your vacation." As he left, I felt a confusing mix of emotions, guilt at the thought of my family facing a raw chicken on Christmas Day, but also a strange, bubbling excitement. For the first time, someone was on my side. Someone understood. That night, I dreamed of Christmases past, a montage of steamy kitchens, of checking timers and temperatures, of watching through doorways as my family laughed and exchanged gifts while I stirred and seasoned. I woke up with tears on my cheeks and a question in my heart: had I been a victim or an accomplice in my own erasure? What I didn't know then was that my small act of rebellion was about to uncover family secrets buried deeper than holiday traditions. That my mother's desperate need for perfect holiday meals came from a place of childhood trauma I'd never been told about. That my father's gruff dismissals masked a guilt he'd carried for decades. And that by Christmas morning, standing in a Denny's parking lot with my phone buzzing with desperate messages, I would discover that the raw chicken on my family's table was the least of the emotional reckonings we would face. I just had to get through one more week, 7 days that would challenge everything I thought I knew about my family, my childhood, and myself. And then I would have to decide, walk away completely, or find a new way to belong. Christmas Eve arrived with a snowfall that blanketed the city in pristine white. I watched it from my apartment window, suitcase packed for my mountain getaway, departure set for early afternoon. My phone had been mercifully quiet since my conversation with Michael last week. Either my family had finally accepted my decision, or they were planning something dramatic. With the Mitchells, it was usually the latter. The knock came at 10 a.m. Not a tentative tap, but a commanding pound that could only belong to my father. I opened the door to find not just Dad, but my entire family: Mom, Olivia, Greg, the kids, and Michael, who shot me an apologetic grimace. "Family meeting," my father announced, brushing past me into the apartment. I didn't agree to a meeting, I protested as they filed in, Olivia's children immediately gravitating toward my bookshelves. "Eleanor," my mother said, her voice quavering with practiced vulnerability, "we need to talk before you abandon us tomorrow." "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm taking a vacation." "On Christmas," Olivia interjected, her tone making it sound like I'd suggested canceling oxygen. My father settled his imposing frame on my couch. At 65, Richard Mitchell still commanded attention, former high school football star turned successful business owner, a man who expected obedience and usually received it. "Your mother found something," he said gravely. "Show her, Patricia." Mom pulled a photo album from her oversized purse, not one I recognized. "I was looking through old pictures, trying to prove you wrong about not being in any holiday photos." She opened the album to reveal images I'd never seen: me as a toddler sitting on Santa's lap, unwrapping presents under the tree at age 4, blowing out candles on a Christmas-themed birthday cake at 6. "See," she said triumphantly. "You were included. You were part of everything." I studied the photos carefully. "These stop when I'm 6. Right before you put me in charge of cooking." The room fell silent. My mother's triumph deflated visibly. That's just a coincidence," she stammered. "Is it?" I turned to my father. "Why did you come here today? What's this really about?" He cleared his throat. "Your mother is very upset about Christmas dinner." "This isn't about dinner," I interrupted, surprising everyone, including myself. "This is about why a 7-year-old child was made responsible for feeding an entire family. This is about why none of you ever noticed or cared that I spent every holiday working instead of celebrating." "We thought you enjoyed it," my mother protested. "Did you? Or was it just convenient to believe that?" Michael, who had been leaning against the wall observing, spoke up. "Mom, remember when Elle got that bad flu at 13? She still cooked Thanksgiving dinner with a 102-degree fever because you said the family was counting on her." My mother's face flushed. "I never forced her to do anything." "You didn't have to," I said quietly. The guilt was enough. Olivia, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly stood up. "I found something too." She pulled a folded paper from her purse and handed it to me. "I was going through old school papers in Mom's attic and found this." It was a crude drawing in faded crayon, a stick figure in a chef's hat, tears streaming down its face, surrounded by other happy stick figures eating at a table. In a child's wobbly handwriting, "My Family at Christmas" by Eleanor Mitchell, grade 2. "You were 8 when you drew this," Olivia said softly. I didn't understand what it meant until now. I stared at the picture, memories flooding back, the school counselor who had called my parents after seeing this drawing, the hushed arguments behind closed doors, my mother's tight smile as she assured everyone I was just imaginative. "I think," Michael said into the silence, "that we all need to acknowledge that we've been taking advantage of Eleanor for most of her life." My father stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Patricia needed help after her breakdown, and Eleanor was good in the kitchen. We did what we had to do." "Breakdown?" I echoed. "What breakdown?" The room froze. My mother's face went pale. "Richard," she hissed. "We agreed never to." "She deserves to know," my father said grimly. "It's gone on too long." My mother's hands trembled as she sat beside me. "When you were 6, right after Christmas, I had an episode. I couldn't get out of bed for weeks. The doctors called it severe depression, triggered by holiday stress." She twisted her wedding ring nervously. My own mother was a perfectionist about holidays. Nothing I did was ever good enough. When I became a mother, I swore things would be different, but then the pressure, it was too much. "So you put that pressure on me instead," I whispered. "We thought cooking might help you feel secure when everything else seemed chaotic," my father explained. "You were so scared when your mother was sick. You kept trying to take care of everyone. So you let me. For 25 years. At first, it was just small things," my mother continued. "But you were so good at it, and so happy when everyone praised your cooking." "I wasn't happy," I corrected. "I was desperate for approval." Olivia's husband Greg, who had been silent throughout, suddenly spoke. I've always wondered why no one else helped in the kitchen. Even I noticed Eleanor was doing everything alone. You never offered to help either, Olivia snapped. Actually, I did, Greg replied. Several times. I was told Eleanor preferred to work alone. All eyes turned to my mother, who flushed. Well, she has her systems. Did you ever ask me? I questioned. The silence was answer enough. My father checked his watch, his eternal signal that emotional discussions had gone on long enough. The point is, Eleanor, your mother needs you tomorrow. The family needs you. No, I said, standing up. What Mom needs is therapy to deal with her childhood trauma. What this family needs is to learn how to function without exploiting one person. And what I need is a Christmas where I'm not in the kitchen. I walked to the door and opened it. I'm leaving for the mountains in an hour. I've made my decision, and I'm sticking to it. One by one, they filed out, my father stoic, my mother teary, Olivia conflicted. Michael lingered behind. The raw chicken is still in play, he whispered. Merry Christmas, Elle. Be free. As I drove toward the mountains later that day, my phone buzzed with increasingly frantic messages. But for the first time in my life, the chaos wasn't mine to fix. Tomorrow, while my family faced their first Christmas without their kitchen servant, I would be having dinner prepared by someone else, sitting at a table as a guest, not a cook. I smiled as snow began to fall, covering the road ahead in a clean, unmarked blanket of white. Sometimes the most powerful gift you can give yourself is simply saying no. What I didn't know then was that Christmas Day would bring one final revelation, one that would either heal our family's broken patterns or shatter them completely. The mountain resort sparkled with holiday cheer, towering Christmas trees, crackling fires, and staff offering mulled wine. For the first time ever, I experienced Christmas as a participant rather than a provider. I sipped wine, joined carolers, and slept without setting a single alarm for basting or mixing. Christmas morning dawned clear and brilliant. I savored breakfast at the resort restaurant, where a chef prepared omelets and wished guests Merry Christmas with genuine warmth. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd traveled 3 hours to experience what my family had enjoyed for 25 years, a Christmas where someone else did the work. Around noon, I turned my phone back on. 15 missed calls. 28 texts. 3 voicemails. From my mother, Eleanor, please call. The kitchen is a disaster. No one knows what they're doing. From Olivia, Elle, Mom's having a meltdown. Dad's threatening to go to a restaurant but everything's closed. From Michael, Elle, Dad actually tried to cook the chicken. It's still raw and might have given Greg food poisoning. Mom's crying in the bathroom. I think you broke them, in the best possible way. I'm heading to Denny's if you want to join. I sat on my bed, unexpected tears blurring my vision. The satisfaction I'd anticipated felt hollow. Breaking a dysfunctional pattern was necessary, but it wasn't a victory if everyone was miserable. Instead of racing home to rescue everyone as the old Eleanor would have done, I texted Michael, "Which Denny's?" 30 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot where Michael waited outside. "Wasn't sure you'd actually come," he said. "Wasn't sure I would either." Over Grand Slam breakfasts, Michael described the disaster. Apocalyptic. Mom kept saying Eleanor would know what to do. Dad tried to take charge but couldn't figure out the oven. Olivia Googled how to cook a chicken but got confused. Dad insisted it was done, cut into it at the table, and pink juice ran everywhere. Do you think they understand now? I asked. Mom might. She was pretty shaken. Kept saying she'd failed again, just like her mother always said she would. That's not what I wanted, I said softly. I know. But maybe it's what needed to happen. We've all been playing our assigned roles for too long, the irresponsible son, the perfect daughter who never complains, the princess who gets whatever she wants. No one's allowed to change. So what now? I asked. Now, Michael said with a smile, we establish new traditions. On impulse, I followed Michael back to our parents' house. Inside, discarded wrapping paper lay strewn about, dishes piled in the sink. My mother sat on the couch, eyes red from crying, while my father stared blankly at a football game. Eleanor? You came back. My mother looked shocked. Not to cook, I clarified quickly. Just to talk. For the next hour, we discussed the patterns we'd all been trapped in, my mother's unresolved childhood trauma, my father's emotional absence, and how a family system had been built around protecting my mother from stress by transferring that burden to a child. I never wanted to hurt you, my mother said, tears streaming down her face. I thought I was helping you develop your talents. I know, I replied. You didn't do it maliciously. But it hurt me all the same. What do we do now? My father asked. Order Chinese? I laughed. Yes, Dad. Today we order Chinese. But going forward, we figure out how to be a real family, where responsibilities are shared, where everyone's needs matter, where no one is invisible. Michael stepped forward. I have an idea for a new tradition. Next year, we all cook together. Everyone contributes one dish. Eleanor can teach us, if she wants to. And we hire a photographer, my mother added softly. To take pictures of all of us. Together. I felt something shift inside me, not forgiveness exactly, but the possibility of it. The chance for something new to grow from the ashes of old patterns. Later that evening, after Chinese food on paper plates and awkward but genuine attempts at holiday cheer, I returned to my mountain resort. As I sat by the fire watching other guests celebrate, I realized I hadn't abandoned my family by refusing to cook. I had given them, and myself, the gift of truth. 3 months later, on Easter Sunday, I stood in my parents' kitchen. Around me, chaos reigned, my father struggling to glaze a ham under my guidance, Olivia attempting homemade rolls, Greg preparing vegetables, the children decorating cookies. My mother moved among us, not cooking but setting the table, making everything beautiful in her own way. Michael arrived late as usual, carrying a store-bought pie and his newest girlfriend, plus a small gift for me, a framed photograph, the first official Mitchell family portrait. Everyone was there around the dinner table with a fully cooked turkey, catered, by mutual agreement. And there I was, right in the center, smiling not from the kitchen doorway but from my seat at the table. Happy Easter, Elle, Michael said, hugging me. From the dining room, my father called, Eleanor. Is the ham supposed to be this color? I laughed. Coming, Dad. Let's figure it out together. As I moved to help him, not taking over but teaching, I realized that saying no to being invisible had finally made me seen. The meal wouldn't be perfect, but for the first time, it would be truly shared. Sometimes the most valuable family tradition is the courage to break the harmful ones. Sometimes love means refusing to play a role that diminishes you. And sometimes, leaving them with nothing but a raw chicken in silence is exactly the wake-up call a family needs to finally change. Have you ever had to break a family tradition to protect yourself? Share your story in the comments below.